Scapular Anastomosis. Welcome to the Everything Surgery podcast, where we dissect the extraordinary. Today, we are exploring the intricate arterial network known as scapular anastomosis. This episode is designed for medical students and professionals seeking a comprehensive understanding of the anatomical and clinical significance of this circulatory pathway. Introduction. The importance of scapular anastomosis. The scapular anastomosis represents a remarkable example of the body's ability to maintain blood supply to the upper limb, even in the face of arterial obstruction. By examining the components, connections, and clinical implications of this network, we gain insight into both normal physiology and surgical interventions. Scapular anastomosis. Definition and function. Scapular anastomosis is a complex network of arteries encircling the scapula, or shoulder blade. Its primary function is to ensure continuous blood flow to the upper limb. This network serves as a safeguard, allowing circulation to persist even when the main arterial channel, the axillary artery, is obstructed or compressed. Through these connections, the body maintains perfusion and protects the function of the upper limb. Anatomical location and components. The scapular anastomosis occurs in three principal regions around the scapula. These include the dorsal region, which covers the posterior surface, the area at the inferior angle, and the ventral region, which is oriented toward the anterior wall. Each region contains distinct arterial pathways that contribute to the overall network. Dorsal scapular region. Detailed arterial connections. Let us begin with the dorsal region, which is the primary site of scapular anastomosis. Here, three arteries are particularly important: the suprascapular artery, the dorsal scapular artery, and the circumflex scapular artery. The suprascapular artery typically originates from the thyrocervical trunk of the subclavian artery, traverses the posterior triangle of the neck, and supplies the supraspinatus and infraspinatus fossae. The dorsal scapular artery usually arises from the subclavian artery, or may be a deep branch of the transverse cervical artery, and descends along the medial border of the scapula beneath the rhomboid muscles. The circumflex scapular artery, a major branch of the subscapular artery stemming from the axillary artery, curls around the lateral border of the scapula, entering the infraspinatus fossa via the triangular space bordered by the teres major, teres minor, and the long head of the triceps muscle. Within the infraspinatus fossa, the circumflex scapular artery forms connections with branches of both the suprascapular artery and the dorsal scapular artery. This results in a rich vascular network on the posterior surface of the scapula, providing multiple routes for blood to reach the upper limb. Inferior angle of the scapula. Key anastomosis at the inferior angle of the scapula. The descending branch of the dorsal scapular artery is particularly significant. This artery forms connections with descending branches from the intercostal arteries, which originate from the aorta. It may also anastomose with the circumflex scapular artery. Together, these vessels create additional collateral routes for blood to circulate, especially when the main arterial pathways are compromised. Ventral or anterior region. Subscapular fossa. Connections on the anterior surface of the scapula. Within the subscapular fossa, branches from the subscapular artery, supplied by the axillary artery, play a crucial role. These branches provide blood to the subscapularis muscle and anastomose with the dorsal scapular and suprascapular arteries. This region further strengthens the network's ability to maintain blood flow under adverse conditions. Schematic summary of arterial pathways. To summarize the arterial connections, the dorsal scapular artery, originating from the subclavian artery, connects with both the circumflex scapular artery and the suprascapular artery along the medial border and within the infraspinatus fossa. The suprascapular artery, arising from the thyrocervical trunk, likewise forms anastomosis with the circumflex scapular artery and the dorsal scapular artery in the supraspinous and infraspinous fossae. The circumflex scapular artery, a branch of the subscapular artery from the axillary artery, also links with the dorsal scapular and suprascapular arteries in the infraspinatus fossa via the triangular space. Lastly, branches from the subscapular artery establish connections with the dorsal scapular and suprascapular arteries on the anterior surface within the subscapular fossa. Clinical significance. The Steele phenomenon and its implications beyond its anatomical interest. The scapular anastomosis has profound clinical importance, especially in cases of proximal axillary artery occlusion. This may occur due to trauma, thrombosis, or surgical ligation. When the main axillary artery is obstructed, blood flow is redirected through the collateral network. The process unfolds as follows. Blood travels from the subclavian artery, down the dorsal scapular and suprascapular arteries, across the anastomotic network on the scapula, into the circumflex scapular artery, retrograde into the subscapular artery, and ultimately reaches the distal axillary or brachial artery. In essence, the network allows blood to bypass the blockage, preserving the viability of the limb. Although pulses may be diminished, this principle is vital during radiological interventions and surgical planning, such as axillary dissections. In summary, the scapular anastomosis is a strategically positioned collateral circulatory system. It connects the first part of the subclavian artery to the third part of the axillary artery through a network of arteries encircling the scapula. The key participants include the dorsal scapular, suprascapular, and circumflex scapular arteries. This system exemplifies the body's inherent redundancy, ensuring vital blood supply to the upper limb even under challenging conditions. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Everything Surgery podcast, where we dissected the extraordinary details of the scapular anastomosis. If you found this content valuable, please like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more in-depth explorations of surgical and anatomical topics.